This is 1 mana left. And this is like, what, like 4.5 days into the league, 5, something like that. I meant to do this update last night. So, long story short, I finally got an Indigon. I got this on Sunday, so technically I can say I got Indigon first weekend. I self-farmed this. I set up my Atlas for destructive play, which is one of these idols, and then I got a bunch of ones that have, like, you know, Elder, Shaper, Drop Chance, and I've been doing that. And you crank out Guardian maps really fast. I'll show that in a little second here. And on Sunday alone, I self-farmed pretty much 7 Uber Elders. And number 7 dropped Indigon. Now, I think the odds is lower than that. But so I got a little lucky there. I'm still only at 1 so far out of 13, so maybe now my luck's a little more normal. I'm 1 for 13 on Watcher's Eyes too, so I think I'm actually bad luck now. But I have Indigon. This does change the way the build plays. The main thing is you now have pretty much infinite damage. But a lot of people might get to this point and start to struggle with the mana, because this is the whole challenge of the build, is trying to get this as smooth as possible. It's like a cheat code that just gives you infinite damage, but you have to play by a weird set of rules. So I'm going to go how I'm doing it, go over that, and maybe just explain the options that you have to balance this out. And then I'll go over maybe chest. I crafted that. I'm now hybrid. You can say I have 2k ES. And I have ES leech. And I intend to get that on a cluster jewel instead to have triple leech. I'm still pathing through the middle. I've now set up a brutal restraint here. You know, these are pretty good. 5% dex. 5% dex. 5%. Yeah, they're pretty good. And I have unnatural instinct here. And I'm going to make a bunch of changes. I'm now at the point where my damage is so stupid. I'm just upgrading defense. In fact, one of the really OP things there is in the idols is this. Wellspring of Creation, if you get a really good roll one. Monsters have 40% more life, which with Indigon does absolutely nothing. And then monsters deal 30% less damage. This is just a free 30 DR once you get Indigon. This is really OP. So, yeah. I've been mapping with this, and it feels pretty good. I'm going to start doing, probably this coming weekend, some, like, Juice T17, Rogue Exile, Titanic bullshit, and this will be really powerful for that. But yeah, I'm just getting some defensive upgrades, then I should be face rolling that by this weekend. They don't have any HP. I tested earlier in a Fubgun map. I screwed up, and I didn't have my tattoo in, because I had it right here, and then it got canceled by Unnatural Instinct. So I was wondering why I had no life leech. That's the only thing that was really killing me was the complete lack of recovery. I had no life leech. I'm like, why am I dying? Is it because their DR is too high? And I accidentally had the life leech tattoo here. So I just straight up didn't have any recovery, and that's what was costing me. But other than that, like even the gigantic ones with Tormented Spirits in them, they just died in like 1 second. So they don't really have any HP. Even with Wellspring, they were Wellspring with 80% more life with 119 life as extra ES, and the giant ones still died in like 1 game tick. So I don't need more damage. The only thing I'm going to do is upgrade a lot of defense. I'm probably going to go to the physical mind over matter. I tested this today. This does not over-convert with mind over matter. It's exactly 100, so that's good. So I'm probably going to switch to that just for tankiness, because I don't really need damage once again. But I'll show off map. I'll talk about Indigon. I'll talk about options to, balance Indigon, and then maybe I'll talk chestcraft and wrap it up. So, long story short, I talked about this kind of in the build guide video. You don't have Sanctuary of Thaw's Whisperer, and you have to get your spend about right. So, I tried right away with my exact current setup, and the spend definitely felt high. It's still a little high, but it feels better. But if you just look at like my hideout amounts right now, I have 52 mana. But let me show you an example of this. So I'm using level 15 Lightning Arrow right now. Why is that? Well, before it was 59 mana. But my Storm Rain's exactly 100. So if you do a little simple math here, it's 3 times 100 to trigger Manaforged. But at 59 per, it was 5.08. The way this rounds is always rounds up. So this means it was taking 6 shots to trigger Storm Rain, which is higher than the Hierophant I had to play. I'm not using Inspiration on my Storm Rain right now, so my shot ratio is pretty high. But I'm at like 4.4 APS in maps buffed. Like, no frenzy charges. I'm at 0.23. With frenzy charges, it's like 0.21 or 0.2. Or 0.22. So I'm like 4.5 APS, which, so at 6-to-1 shot ratio, it's like every 1.3 seconds, and then Mana or Mirage Archer carries from there. But it's a little bit low shot ratio. I'm tempted to run Inspiration, but I'll get to that in a second. So by switching it to 15, that drops the base cost of the gem from 10 to 9, so it's 10% cheaper. That brings my cost down from 59 to 52 in this case, which is actually due to rounding. In this case, 13% cheaper. But the way that works out is it's still 300 mana trigger, but at 52, my shot ratio now is 5.77, which is still 6-to-1. So I still trigger every 6, but now I'm spending like 10 to 13% less mana on my spender, which is a big deal for keeping your Indigon ramp too low. And then it's still, I did change, I put Mana Leech instead of Calling Strike, because it made my secondary setup a 2-to-1 shot ratio. Why is this not corrupted, by the way? There we go. It made this a 2-to-1 shot ratio. And I had to go a little bit of CDR on the Manaforged arrow, so that I can roughly 2-to-1 trigger that. So I did a little play with shot ratio, but the reason there's an update to this is, let's talk Inspiration. I don't actually think I'm ever going to use Inspiration on my spender. And here's why. I really overlooked this fact. Lightning Arrow gets all the way down to 6 for a base cost instead of 10. Like, I don't think there's a single bow gem that's this aggressive on cost versus damage effectiveness. So it's already 40% cheaper if you went with a level 2. But a lot of gems, especially like attacks, for example, they got revamped in like 325 to be like 4 or 5% per level. They're kind of moving toward that like PoE 2 model where gem levels matter for attack skills. And even a lot of bow skills, it's like over 2% per level, which across 20 levels multiplies to be like over 50% more damage, which is more valuable than a support gem, so Inspiration makes sense. But in the case of Lightning Arrow, a 20 Lightning Arrow is 177.1. A level 2 is 151. That's 17% damage difference. So you could just not run Inspiration at all, and instead just run another damage support, or a support that does something positive, and it's more damage overall than running Inspiration. And you can fine-tune in between. Like, maybe a 40% jump's a big deal. Maybe 6 is too low, 10 is too high, but you like 8, you like 7, you like 9, whatever. So I'm actually going to probably solve all my spender balance by changing the level of Lightning Arrow. And the other thing then is Storm Rain. I would say this. Storm Rain, there's 2 subjects here. First is Inspiration. I have a 6-to-1 shot ratio, which is a little high. It feels a little bad at times. You'll lose a support gem worth of damage, but you can add Inspiration to this, and that would get me down all the way to potentially a 4-to-1 ratio, which would play a lot smoother at the cost of 1 damage gem. In like post Indigon, especially in good gear, I think this is probably the correct play, because you'll already just kind of insta murder anything. So smoothness is probably worth the opportunity cost of damage, unless you're farming something insane. But there's 2 counter arguments to that. The first is the intergalactic Mirage Archer setup, which I'm going to talk more about in a future video. The second is if you want to drop Storm Rain for a clear speed skill, because you don't have to use Storm Rain. Storm Rain is just good because it's got insane damage effectiveness, Storm Rain of the Conduit especially. It gives you a lot of control over where you stand to put your single target. And because of the 10 arrow limit with the infrequent triggering of Manaforged arrow, it makes the damage just off the charts. So it just makes nice to have a playstyle where you have your spender skill that just plays like a normal bow skill with good clear speed, clears trash, and then you just have like the insta-murder Storm Rain for bosses. You don't have to play this way, especially in good gear post-Indigon. If you just want to blast maps, you could switch this out and just drop Storm Rain for like another Lightning Arrow. And then you could just have Manaforged Lightning Arrow, which once again, on its own, would be really infrequent triggering. But the way you can do that is if you get like, I said I had 4.5 APS. Let's say I had the deck stack mod on chest, and I had like 7 APS. Well, Mirage Archer is going to have 40% of that. 3 APS on Mirage Archer? Like, imagine that. That's insanely fast. I know this sounds obvious, like duh. That is 3 attacks per second. That's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Your Mirage Archer is going to be firing that speed at 7 base APS. Mirage Archer gets the Manaforged arrow damage multiplier. So you can juice up your Manaforged main nuke 6-link to just be tailored around Mirage Archer. And you have it like a clear speed skill, like either Lightning Arrow with your Ascendancy Awakened Fork, or maybe something like Tornado Shot if you got a little proj speed or extra arrows, whatever. And you can just run around the map just using your spender to keep ramped and just watching your Mirage Archer just like rain down murder on everything. It's a setup I'm going to play with a little later because I want the deck stack mob before I like play around that. But for now, just consider that a future possibility. But yeah, you can drop Storm Rain. But the way I've been playing, it feels really good. I'll show you a map here in a second. It just feels fine as is. I don't feel the need to switch the Storm Rain. I like the single target. Lightning Arrows clearing as is. But then yeah, the last thing I might do is I might drop Frenzy because I don't feel like I need the damage. And as far as tankiness, it's actually a negative tankiness mob because Charge Steal is really common both on Arch Nemesis and map mods. And Charge Steal just gives enemies Frenzy charges, which are way stronger on monsters than they are on you. I've been thinking about just dropping this and just saying I don't need 12% damage, and just adding either like another support gem that doesn't put a multiplier on it, or just some utility, another storm Rain regular, which doesn't have which has an independent arrow limit count for deleach and delayed leech for like more survivability when you can't fire. But yeah, the last thing I'll add is if you want your ramp to be positive. A lot of people really screw this up because they have the mindset that I have to attack the full time. I have to attack. I can't not attack. And they just fuck their whole build. Like, I don't know what like the brain rot is, but like 50% of people play this way where they cannot not attack. The way the build works is if you have positive ramp and you have that mindset, given an amount of time, depending on your spend, maybe it's 2 seconds, maybe it's 8 seconds, you will fuck yourself eventually. Just don't attack if you get too ramped. Like, if you're fighting something, it kind of should be self-correcting because either things aren't dying, so you keep attacking and then you ramp until they die, or, and in those cases, you want high ramp. Or things are dying instantly, in which case you stop attacking to run to the next monsters. And in that time, you're not attacking, therefore your ramp will be low. In this sweet spot, the build plays nicely because it is self-corrects. High HP monsters force you to attack, which force you to ramp. Low HP monsters, you spend half your time running, half your time shooting, so you stay low ramp. But there are people who get into situations where they're just like, I have to attack. I'm already spending half my mana per shot. I have to keep attacking. Stop. No, don't. If your orb is bouncing, and for whatever reason you're fighting a monster or a boss that like has an immune phase, and you literally can't damage it. It's doing some bullshit RP for 10 seconds. You're gonna blow it up instantly coming out of it, but you're just like, I'm just gonna fuck my whole build while it's doing RP. Don't do that, okay? I've had people ask questions, and the only thing that makes sense for how they're screwing up is that they're doing that. Don't do that. I'll show you a map, though, alright? Like I said, I should have damage now. I'm using the level 15 Lightning Arrow. I'm not doing Inspiration in either. I have a little bit of low shot ratio, but for the most part, it's playing fine. We'll show it off. Do I have my horizontal? I do, okay. But yeah, no, it's a bow guy. Bow guys shoot arrows. Then things die. There will be a little bit of it's something you do get a little bit used to. Depending on on weird timings, like 10% of the time, you'll like randomly have a rare that doesn't die, and it could just come down to like, you know, you miss time like. With a lot of experience, you just subconsciously solve it, kind of. But like the first time you like play with Indigon, especially, you'll be a little bit out of whack sometimes, where it's like you just have this random period of no damage. But, like, a couple tips and tricks for that is if you're starting off a fight, don't cloak right away. Get a few shots out, just to make it so that your Storm Rain's about to trigger, or is already triggered, and then cloak. Don't cloak and then start shooting. Do a few shots and then cloak. That's a big help. But like, all right, then like boom, Minotaur dies, they all die, and I'm destructive play, so I get like 2 maps. Like that's the mapping experience right now. Destructive play has been pretty good to me. Like I said, self-farmed in Indigon. I'm probably due up for another one soon. Hopium. But yeah, no, I've got good damage. I'm gonna take this into the like. I'm gonna try to crank out like the Rogue Exile thing maybe with like 600 quant, all that stuff. But I from what I tested today in T16s, it doesn't seem numerically hard enough to like really push the build. Like considering I have like dumpster 70 div gear, and if I would have had a tattoo, I probably would have been fine in the map. I'm pretty sure it'll be face roll by like even a day or 2 from now. So by this weekend, it'll probably be like to the point of being boring if I try to do that. So I'm probably gonna try to do that in tier 17s and try to take it like even higher, just to see if I can have a little more fun. But that's the setup. Oh yeah, one last thing. I'll try chest. Chest is very basic. Everyone's splitting necrotic armors 86. Just dense fossil prefixes, and then you can either Eldritch Chaos or whatever on suffixes. It's probably better just always Eldritch Chaos instead of doing metacrafting. And we'll have a Baxis link to Jewel too. Hang on a second. But you can get Dex and percent attributes. I hit 2 good res on Eldritch Chaos, so I'm just going to go percent attributes. It's fine. But then from here, I have like 2k energy shield now. You know what's nice with this? Well, you have instant leech, so I just threw ES leech in here. But what I'm going to do is craft a large cluster. I'll talk about this more with Storm Drinker, because Storm Drinker gives you lightning damage leeches to ES. And once I do this, that'll solve all my ES leech for everything. So I might even crank this number up to like 5 or 6k with like the Clarity Watcher's Eye mod, and like be full Tribrid. But then the last thing, the last thing in the video. All right. I've tried to be, the best of my ability, cater to those who are getting into an endgame stacker build, but maybe don't have a lot of experience, maybe are newer players. A lot of people have tried this build out for the first time in this league, and I'm trying to, keep as many people, getting through that hard time farming up to Indigon and get to the promised land as possible, okay? I'm trying to get everyone there. That's the 99%ers. But for those of you out there that are absolute bloodthirsty sharks, the apex predators of Path of Exile, the people that are ahead of me right now by a significant margin, all right? This one's for you. I know I saw I had the Planet Eater POB, and some of you looked at that, and some people look at that and laugh, but if you were a person that looked at that, be like, yeah, I'd win. There is a mirror small. So if you think the idea of mirroring small cluster jewels is silly, this is not for you. If you understand why mirroring smalls is good, this might be for you. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time.